You're all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, James. And I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June 23rd, 2021. If you could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Noreen, if you could do the roll call, I'd appreciate it.
I am not seeing Noreen on right now. I know she came out from the other meeting.
Okay. Could you do the roll call for me, James, by any chance?
I will do my best for you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
All right. Chairman Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Braverman,
Here.
Commissioner Haggerty,
Here.
Commissioner Lenars,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods, absent. Commissioner Claffey, absent. You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gill.
Oh, my apologies. Commissioner Gill is not on with this either.
Okay. Let's see, could we appoint Mr. Braverman, Commissioner Braverman for Commissioner Woods, and Commissioner Haggerty will sit in for Commissioner Claffey?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll look to our town planner and ask her if there's any changes in our agenda.
Mr. Chair, yes. If we can please change the items under 6A and 9A to read the petition 3021 special permit of section 319.5 to allow placement of a car wash with the new gas and convenience store, including a drive-through restaurant at Willard Avenue, applicant and owner. I'm eliminating an associated site plan from this at this point, and when the applicant presents, we will explain the reasons for that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Renata. So was that under, what was that under? That was under old business?
So it is under public A and provided you close the hearing and push this onto old business, it would be again on your old business agenda. So
Okay.
It's item A under 6 and under 9.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're at public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. If there's anybody out there wishing to speak within the Zoom application, please raise your hand. If you'd like to participate, we have one person with a phone number ending in 070. You could go ahead. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. And I originally was calling in to ask whether NCTV was going to be televising this tonight, but about 5 minutes into the meeting, it did come on. But that is part of what I had to make a comment about tonight is the inability of myself. I don't know if anybody else is having that problem. I have Cox Communications for my cable provider, and your last meeting, I lost the television portion of it and the audio or on the phone that I'm speaking to you on because of the thunderstorm and lightning. And the 2 weeks prior to that, I lost another portion of it. And after listening to the town council meeting last night and hearing about recent legislation that has been enacted that is going to impact the meetings and when they will be able to be held back in person, I'm hoping and I'm pretty confident that the town clerk has conveyed to you that the issues that are going on, but last night I asked the town council to make it a top priority to see what they can do about getting whatever technology we need or getting clarification of the legislation so that the public can be back in person to listen to some of the public hearings that are being or contemplating being held. I'm particularly concerned about the Newington Junction area, and if there's no applications pending in that area and it can wait for a public hearing till we can be back in person, I think it would be the best for all involved, especially the neighbors in that area. Just a thought, like I say, I think these public hearings that have been held over the last year, fine and good, things had to get done, I understand it, but now we're still a year or more than a year later and still not back in person. So whatever can be done to get clarification of the legislation and get the technology that we need completed, it would be appreciated. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lyons. Appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak? If you're calling in, you can use the telephone, *9. If you're in Zoom, raise your hand.
At this time, we have no other individuals with their hands raised.
Okay. Remarks by commissioners? Any commissioners have any remarks?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
Just to echo what Ms. Lyons was just saying about waiting for public participations to when we go back in person. And I don't know if this question is best fit for you, Mr. Chairman, or the planner, or James. But just to give maybe a little insight on, maybe a little update, has there been any communications on allowing us to come back in person at all? Do they have a date that they're thinking about? Nothing yet at all? Or are we just waiting for a little bit more clearer days in terms of some numbers that we've been reading about? Just wondering, maybe an update for the public as well as us commissioners, that if they have anything on the agenda or in the future that they have a date where we might come back in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. I talked to the town planner today about this same subject. I had told her that I wanted to reach out to each commissioner and find out if each one feels comfortable coming back in person. The whole thing will be easier as if all the commissioners are going to meet in person instead of having a mixture, some on Zoom and some in person. So I was going to reach out to each commissioner, talk to you, see if everybody's all right with that. And if that's the case, we were going to work out any details with James. And we're anticipating possibly the second meeting in July, coming back in person. But we are working on it, and I should be able to give you an update shortly.
And just to forward my thoughts, I'm not for or against doing anything quickly or holding off. I was just wondering, as an update, and just for the record, I mean, if you think about what we've done as a commission as a whole, with you at the helm, with all of our commissioners logging in every week, as well as the planner and James putting this all together and making it almost seamless, we haven't halted business for the town. And I think that's to be commendable for all of us that have done this, to allow businesses to come in, get their things approved or situated to do business for themselves within the town. I agree. Some stuff, like Ms. Lyons says, is better in person, or it's more informative, but we haven't halted the way we've done business. And I think we've done a nice job considering what we've had to deal with. So thank you all involved. And if and when we do come back together in person, I look forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, two things. Number one, I attended a CROG meeting the other night last Thursday, and one of the questions that came up was CROG had asked the commission members if anybody's meeting in person. Hartford has gone back to meeting in person. Rocky Hill, several of the other towns, Farmington. Hartford had tried a hybrid the month before. Secondly, at that meeting, they had attorney Mike Ziska from Halloran and Sage explain the new housing regulations that were passed. I'm hoping to get, actually CROG had promised, and it hasn't come out yet, a copy of the entire conversation with the PowerPoint. And once I get it, I will pass it out to everybody, including the town planner, if she doesn't get it from them. And it was very enlightening, because he said there's some things that even he doesn't understand. So I think it'd behoove us to get that and look at it as soon as possible. I did attend partially the one that Renata had set up, and basically it covered the same thing. But Attorney Ziska, who works for Halloran and Sage, and he had given when I went to the land use course a couple of years ago, he was one of the main participants in there. So just to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sobieski. I appreciate your
Question.
comment. Commissioner Braverman, if you have a question, go right ahead.
If you took a straw vote right now, I will be more than happy to attend in person.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Braverman.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Commissioner Fox. You had a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chairman to the planner, I'm a little confused, or maybe I'm just a little out of it. You cite 3.19.5 on petition 30-21. I don't find that in the regulations. I see a 3.19.A.5. Is that what we're talking about? Is that what we're going on?
From the subdivision regulations?
Okay, well,
So 3.19.5 is a subdivision regulation.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Mike?
yes, it does.
Okay,
And I am good with person to person also.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Havens, are you okay meeting in person?
I'll miss my snacks, but other than that, I have no issues.
All right, and obviously, Commissioner Lenars, you're all set for meeting in person?
I'm ready and willing whenever everybody else is.
Okay. Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Braverman already said yes. And Commissioner Haggerty?
I'm all set to meet in person. Absolutely.
Okay, very good. I will reach out to the commissioners that aren't here, and I will work with the town planner and the town clerk to see if we can have in-person meetings for our second meeting in July. Commissioner Gill?
Yes, I'm all set for meeting in person.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Gill. Okay, if there's no further comments from the commissioners and there's no objection, if Commissioner Havens, if you could read the procedures for our public hearing, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings of public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by the chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, a statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by applicant, limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application, limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application, limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant, limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition, limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% of the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Thank you very much. Okay, our first public hearing is petition 30-21, special permit, section 3.19.5, and associated site plan to allow the demolition of an existing car wash and the replacement of the car wash with a new gas convenience store, including a drive-through restaurant at 129 Willard Avenue. Applicant and owner is Gibbs Oil Company, LTD. Contact Kenneth Slater. Is the applicant here? If you could.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is Ken Slater, a partner with the firm of Halloran and Sage, representing the applicant. The reason that it was suggested at the beginning of the meeting to amend the agenda is last week we received comments from engineering. And the good news is we think we can address all of them. I'm not going to call it bad news. There were a lot of good comments, but there were a lot of them. There were a total of 54 comments. And we've had a meeting with both the project engineer, Richard DeFosco, the town engineer, and the town planner, and we went through them, and I'm satisfied, and we're satisfied we'd be able to address all of them. There are some big picture ones, though, that we need to deal with tonight. So the hope was that we could deal with the special permit that go over, why the drive-through Dunkin' and the improved convenience store is appropriate at this location in place of the existing gas station and car wash. And there are a couple of regulatory provisions that we need to talk about, but our plan was not to go through in chapter and verse responses to all of those comments, and that we would instead file revised plans. Mr. DeFosco was able to do the engineering component. There were 4 comments, I believe, on the survey, and the survey was done by a different gentleman. So the plan is to be able to file updated site plans next week. We file that along with a site plan application, and then you could consider the site plan application on an administrative basis, on the assumption that you're satisfied this evening that the plan itself, the use that we're proposing, that is the drive-through Dunkin' and the improved gas station, it satisfies your special permit standards, which we certainly think it does. So if that makes sense, Mr. Chairman, then I would like to proceed in going through an overview of the project and the aspects of the project that really focus in on the special permit criteria, and certainly open to any questions on anything, detailed or not, but to focus in on the special permit criteria and that aspect of the application tonight, and defer some of the real nitty-gritty details, which we hope are going to be eliminated, that your final engineering comments will be none. If that's satisfactory,
Yes,
we'll proceed now.
That is absolutely satisfactory, Attorney Slater, and you can proceed with the special exception, please.
Okay. James, would it be possible to get control of the screen? Because there's the 4 aspects of the regulations that tie into the non-conforming rights that we have on the site, that would address some of the engineering concerns that, if we can't satisfy the commission in that respect, frankly, the project can't go forward. So I'd like to review those. So I'd be able to do that?
Yep.
Excellent. All right. Can you see a sheet of the site plans? Oh, no, it's one more button.
Not yet.
One more button to push. Can you see a sheet now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if we were to propose a brand new facility, and you've seen the plans both when we proposed the PD development some time ago, and this property and adjoining properties were added to the PD zone, and then more recently with the text amendment with the drive-through regulations. So I know you have some general familiarity with it. But just for the purposes of setting up, my discussion here, what you'll see is a reorientation of the gas pumps to be more modernized, like you'd see in a modern gas station. Right now, as you know from the facility, they're clumped together. Where I'm showing right now is in lighter gray are the 4 existing pumps, and what's also shown is the existing canopy that extends to 12 feet towards Willard Avenue, which is a nonconformity with respect to the old zone, and it also is a legal nonconformity when you changed it to PD. The setback requirement requires a 35-foot setback, which is that line drawn right there. By reorienting these gas pumps in that fashion, what we've done is moved the entire canopy essentially twice the distance away from the road than it is right now. So we have a legal entitlement to keep a canopy 12 and a half feet in this configuration. What we've done is we've pushed it back to about 24 feet. When I was looking, the staff report points out that this entire structure, that is the entire canopy, no modern gas station is going to be constructed without a canopy for folks to be under when they're pumping their fuel. The entire size of this canopy is 930 square feet, but a portion of it, a substantial portion of it that I'm circling right now, is canopy that's already in the within the setback. I'm sorry, in this area right here, because this would be the portion where the hand is going right there. That's the portion that would be constructed inside the setback. But this part in the middle is already there. So that's legally non-conforming location already. So what this proposes is an area here and an area here that would be constructed within the setback in a new area. But that's in exchange for getting rid of the canopy that's very close to the road. And as you know, the whole concept of a setback is to try to have buildings or structures not looming over neighboring properties or too close to the street. So in this instance, our belief is that this is consistent with the goal of planning and zoning to reduce nonconformities. You can try to eliminate them, but you're entitled to keep them. And so what we believe is that this new area is just a little bit more. It's 600, if you just took the new areas, it's 682 square feet of new area there and there versus eliminating 560 square feet, which would be the area extending closer to the road. And so you're 120 square feet larger in total amount of area, but then the whole thing's pushed back 25 feet. So we think it's virtually a no-brainer that when you're looking at what is more non-conforming, that canopy, that 560 feet that's all the way up to 12 feet near the road, or an additional 682 that's almost twice that distance away from the road. So that's one non-conforming use issue that, and there's several cases. There's a Dendis case, a Hinckley case, and a Tower Motel case that all dealt with judgment on the part of the commission to evaluate whether sometimes something changes in a very linear way, but sometimes there's multiple changes. And in the Tower Motel case, for example, there was a non-conforming parking field that was very close to the road, and 21 car spaces were there close to the road. what the applicant sought to do was to reduce it down to 7, but instead of passenger vehicles and motorcycles, there were going to be big U-Haul trucks. So in one respect, they were bigger, the vehicles were bigger, they were taller, but they were moved further away. And the court said the commission had some discretion to evaluate whether or not that was an overall reduction in the nonconformity. In another one of those cases, there was a shed, and it turned out it was partially off the property, and they wanted to move it on the property, but it was still going to be nonconforming. Technically, you were adding more area within the setback, but you were resolving the fact that the building was partially off the lot. The court said under those circumstances, they could consider that being an overall reduction. And in the other case, in this case I mentioned, there was 4 houses on a single family lot, and they wanted to make one a lot bigger. Well, when they made it a lot bigger, they also moved it out of the setback. So the court said, all things considered, given the kinds of nonconformities, even though you made it bigger, that you've moved it further away, and they had discretion to determine that that was a reduction in nonconformity. So that's what we believe you can and should approve.
So you're making it more conforming than it was today by bringing it back, but it's still non-conforming. And but you are improving the situation for the frontage there. So this has happened at a few other locations. For instance, McDonald's on the Berlin Turnpike, they had several non-conformities, and when they remodeled, they corrected quite a few of them, but there was still a non-conformity. So as long as we're bringing the project closer to non-conformity and we're taking some of it away, I don't think any of the commissioners will have a problem. Could you go into more of the project, what's being done and everything, and on the special exception for us?
Absolutely. If I could, though, there's just 2 more on that same, and I think it's going to follow exactly along the lines of what you just said. I just want to explain it quickly. Another engineering comment pointed out that normally your pumps are supposed to be 100 feet from a residential zone. And this field where everything together is close doesn't comply. But as you'll see, one of the new four pumps is a little bit closer to the residential zone than the old pump. But the overall field is substantially better because the next pump is further away than the currently closer pump. The next one is further away than all 4 of them. And then the 4th one is a long distance away. So by turning them 90 degrees, you do end up having this pump be a little bit closer. But when you look at the entirety of the parking field, for the same reason as the last one, we think this is actually more conforming by moving these other 3 away. And what we're talking about with this pump is only, I think it's about 10 or 12 feet different. So overall, we think for the same reason as the canopy, you can conclude that this is an improvement. And there's also a safety consideration there. Now in modern pumps, instead of having everybody close together, having a little more distance and move around when a car feels like they're jammed in and they want to go by, it's easier to travel around there. So we think that's an improvement. And then the last one before the overall project is, it was pointed out that there's a requirement that the tanks be a lot of 100 feet from a residential zone. I just want to point out this is where the tanks are right now in that little gray. So what is shown on this plan does move the tanks closer. We're going to fix that. So that is something that can be done so that we'll stay within the existing non-conforming location for the pumps and resolve that. The town engineer asked whether there was a way in which we could move them all the way to this other side. And the way the trucks fill, they fill on the passenger side. So if a truck were to go around the back and park here to fill, they would need to have to use an extender to be able to move the fuel from the passenger side over. That creates more of a risk of a spill. So we believe keeping it in the area that they've been using all along is superior, but we will bring that into compliance. Mr. DeFusco's online. Andy Beelan from Gibbs Oil is also online. And then the folks for the Duncan, both Joe Naples, property owner, and his attorney, Tim Fury, are online. But the facility, what it's going to look like just with an elevation, if you bear with me here for a second. So what you're looking at is this kind of a facade where you're going to have a hip roof, and you're going to have a lot of glass. It helps with security. You'll be able to see what's happening out in the parking and in front of the pumps. That there'd be an area of brick. You'd be able to see the one Dunkin' sign and the Food Mart sign, again brick, and then the side of the building would be brick. And then the pumping, we've got the signage. I won't make you dizzy doing all of that. Now going back to, this is indication of what the pumps would look like in the signage for the modern Phillips 66 station. Now going back to the overall project layout, and then Mr. DeFusco might want to jump in as well, but a lot of the specific engineering stuff we're going to hold on to. But this is the building. This would be the drive-through lane. And the one other engineering thing that was pointed out is that if this were going to be a new station, there'd only be one entrance. Well, we already have the two entrances, so we believe have a right to do that on a non-conforming standpoint. And if we had to follow that regulation, the only entrance would be down here, which would really, we think, would be a mess. To be able to have people to be able to come in this direction, there's the drive-through lane. People could go in, pump fuel, and then depart. That makes for much better traffic flow. So using the existing two areas, and we're actually narrowing them so that would also, I think, bring things closer to conformity. The drive-through lane runs like this. The area where the ordering would occur is there. There'd be a little canopy over that, so people, when they order, it's not shown on this, it will be added to the final site plan, but when people are ordering, they'll be protected from the rain. They use really high-level technology in the sound system. What it does is it measures the ambient sound in when it's a noisy part of the day where a lot's going on, then the voice will be heard a little bit louder, and when it's at a quiet time, then it lowers it. And it also has a sensor, and it knows when the vehicle is there. So a vehicle is going to provide some shielding for sound at that location as well. And I would also point out that currently the gas station, and it was actually mentioned during the last public hearing, but there is a voice controlled system that's already in place in more open air than what you'd see here in the existing car wash. So there's already, and that's older technology than what Duncan would use. And Mr. Naples represented to me and could to you if you needed to hear that in his facilities he has not had any complaints regarding noise related to the technology they use in their drive-through. Then again, the drive-through lane would go out there, and then there could be a departure there. The entrance to the convenience store is here. There's a site, part of the site plan that shows the interior. There's plans that have all of the landscaping that's included that will I think will comply with some changes of adding some detail on there that was asked by the engineering department, comply with your regulations. Are there aspects of the project that you want to hear? Oh, there's hours. The hours of operation, they would open the Dunkin' would be the hours of 5 to 9. So it would close at very reasonable hour, and the gas station and the convenience store would be open only for the same hours that they operate now, which is 5 to 11. The one other thing that the staff brought up is, in the instance of any queuing issues out onto the road, the folks at Dunkin' say that there's there's ample queuing on this site. But if for some reason it was such a popular Dunkin' that you were dealing with any kind of issues of it queuing all the way back, from I'll go back up to where it is, but queuing all the way around and all the way down out to Willard, they can put signage to prohibit stacking and to prevent people from doing that and direct people to park and go into the restaurant. But having a lot of experience with these facilities, they really believe the risk of that is very, very low. Are there aspects of the operations from because we're divorcing the special permit from the site plan? I wasn't planning to have Mr. DeFusco go through a lot of the details, but I'd like to go over whatever ones you think the commission would want to hear more about from a special permit standard. It's already a gas station, obviously. It's already has a car wash. We believe these modern improvements will fit in well with the neighborhood, and you heard the neighborhood being very supportive. These very same plans were part of the public record during the PD zone application process, and the neighbors were very supportive of it. So the idea of whether or not it's recognized as an appropriate use in the PD zone, and it's one that this site we think is very well suited for it. So rather than talk about things that maybe you're not as interested in on the special permit, are there certain aspects, Mr. Chairman, that you'd like us to highlight beyond my overview at this point?
What about the buffer, a buffer next to the residential property and the fencing? The fencing looks like it's old, and I don't know what you're replacing for buffering. That would be my biggest concern, is making sure that the residents have some protection along those two sides.
I'll stop sharing, and Rich, you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the planning and the fencing on the site?
Sure. My name is Rich DeFusco. I'm a landscape architect with AVE Engineering. We are going to be proposing a 6-foot-high white vinyl privacy fence all along the property line. And there will be a landscape buffer primarily of arborvitaes, which will also add screening and sound reduction along that side. So that is a big improvement over what is there today, which is only about 5 feet wide and minimal landscaping. So we consider this to be a big improvement in that regard.
Well, could you bring up the map and show us exactly where that's going to be, if you don't mind? And will it be on the northern side and the western?
Yes, the fence will be on both the northern and the western side. Most of the landscape buffer will be added to the north. There's already a substantial tree buffer to the west, as you can see on the landscape plan.
Yes, and they're taller trees, and I think if you tried to plant something underneath them, then they I don't know if they would survive with the taller trees right there. Right.
That's correct. Those are going to remain as is, as well as some trees that are in the northwest corner. Most of the buffer will be added alongside the proposed building and islands.
Okay. And the northern side is going to have a row along with a fence and then a row of arborvitaes?
Yeah, there'll be a mix. There'll be some arborvitaes. There's going to be a deciduous tree, a couple of evergreen trees for a little variety rather than just a full row of arborvitaes. There's a 6-foot-high fence, solid white vinyl fence, which will act as a screen in addition to the plantings.
Okay. Now, is the existing fence right on the property line, and with that existing fence coming down?
It looks like the existing fence on the north is on the property line. On the west side, there looks like there's 2 fences there. One is on the abutter's property that would remain, and we would add a white vinyl on the Gibbs property.
Okay. Thank you. Is anything else that you'd like to add?
Just a discussion about the tanks. I know there was a concern about moving them away from the residential. Unfortunately, on the south side, We would not really be able to get the truck in to fill them. Same thing if you had one driveway, then there'd be no way to get a big tanker truck in, circulate, and get back out with just the one driveway. So it's really a necessity for a gas station like this to have two driveways and have the tanks accessible for the drop. So that's an important point for this design.
On the circulation there, it looks like on the southern side, as you go around the drive-through, there's a concrete island there, which controls the traffic to keep the traffic next to the building. Does that run in the way for tractor trailer going through there, or
No, that
does
is
it work?
Yeah, that's a mountable island. That's designed to deter cars from going through, but a tractor trailer can ride over it like it's not even there.
Very good. That's just wanted to get that for the record.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, for the sake of, again, we'll go through any detail and any aspect of this project, but for the sake of time, if we'd be prepared to await any public comment or any questions from the commissioners and delve into more detail.
Let me go to the town planner for her report, and then we'll go to commissioners' questions, and then we'll open it up for the public. Renata?
Sure. So, Mr. Chair and the Commission, I am a huge supporter of any redevelopment. This is an existing site that is currently in depreciated maintenance kind of a stage. Therefore, this, in my opinion, will be a substantial improvement to the current conditions on the site. We had asked you at the beginning of the meeting to take the site plan elements out so that the site plan can be properly acted on. However, some of the site layouts and some of the decisions with regards to non-conformities, we should decide that at this stage, at the stage when the actual uses are to be allowed. When it comes to uses themselves, I believe that they're fit the zoning district. They exist there, so they must fit. And with everything that the applicant is proposing, they have addressed any concerns that we have raised. So, for example, one of the things that we talked about was, this vicinity to the neighbor, which is right now really not mitigated with regards to visual effects or the noise. They're going to be adding fence, they're going to be adding attenuating landscaping that will, and also they're using technology that takes care of noise. The other thing that I wanted to discuss tonight, and they addressed it, was the queuing ability. That is one of those things that under public safety you should look at. We did talk to them about perhaps combining the two entrances into one. Like my boss, town manager, says, we have wants and we have what needs to be done. It would have been nice to have to cut these curb cuts and perhaps have just one, but I agree with them. This appears to be functionally really not attainable situation on this particular site. So with that, I'm happy with their explanation. All of the criterias that you are required to consider under your special exception or special permit have been in some way addressed in their presentation. And those are the criteria that, in my opinion, this application has satisfied. The need for proposed use in the proposed location, there is need. This is an existing site that has this use already. Probable future character of the neighborhood will not change in nature. In fact, it will actually improve because the building will look better and the site will look nicer. We have discussed traffic circulation to some extent with regards to exits onto Willard Avenue. That's appropriate, a special permit. I'm satisfied, as is our engineering department, with that item. And there are utility, water, sewer capabilities in the streets. The sign regulations will be reviewed independently of this. And that's really all of the criterias for you to think about tonight. So
Very good.
the one matter to just also discuss and agree on is this issue of nonconformity. I remember from my previous work as zoning officer, cases where these kind of aerial encroachment, like a larger area encroachment that is set further back, was actually considered less non-conforming than what currently there is. So with that being said, I agree with what Attorney Slater said.
Okay, thank you very much, Renata. Is there any commissioners that have any questions for either the town planner or the applicant? Commissioner Sobieski? I think you're muted, Mike. Commissioner Sobieski, you might be muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
My question that I have is looking at the fill areas for the gasoline tanks there. They're in the driveway or for the drive-through. And if I remember what Attorney Slater said, the filling operation is off the tankers on the right side or the passenger side of the tanker. So if he's dropping product into these tanks during the day, how is traffic going to circulate around him? That's my question.
Sure, well, let's ask the applicant. Maybe they're only filling at night or
I don't know.
he has another
that's what I'm
answer.
asking.
Yep, absolutely. We'll have the applicant address that now.
Because they don't want to get into the prime time, the drops are in off hours. The peak hours are obviously, just before people are going to work and on the way to work and on the way home. But even if it's during a time where there is use, what will happen is the truck would block one of the two lanes. So if someone wanted to go through and around and they were not ordering the drive-through, they'd have to get in line and they would just have to go through here. So there is enough room for the truck. If you looked in the area where those tanks are shown right now, the truck would drive there, and it would block the northernmost lane where you see the four sets of arrows. That lane would get blocked while they're filling, but they don't want to be delivering in the middle of the time when things are where there's most traffic. So they avoid peak hours anyway, but while they're there, traffic can still flow. It just reduces one lane while they drop the fuel.
I was concerned for the safety because I'm thinking if the truck is dropping the fuel here, and I see them do it all the time, they have to be at least a good 3 or 4 feet away from the hatches, which would mean they would tie up both of these lanes. But if you feel comfortable and the safety is met, I'm just questioning that because I would not want to see this man dropping fuel like I see at the Shell station. Cars and everybody else stay away from him. If there's any type of spark that sets this off. Secondly, where is the vent pipes for this going to be coming up? Are they going to be coming up against the property, against the fence line, or are they going to be coming up somehow against the building?
Rich, can you answer that?
Yeah, they would be where the shortest run would be to the vents, which would be the landscape buffer to the north, next to one of the trees. So they'd be out of the way and they wouldn't be near the building.
All right, and my final question is this enough radius in the back where you have these diagonal parking areas for a car to back up and a car coming around? Is there enough sight distance without being impaired? It looks kind of tight back there on the bypass lane in the back of the building.
The only spot where might be a conflict is right at the menu board, and we have designated those 3 parking spaces to be employee only. So they would be coming in and basically sitting there for the day and then leaving. The rest of them would have enough because of the angle of the parking.
And you have enough area for snow shelf storage, and I don't know where you would you put the snow for snow removal.
The snow could be pushed up in the northwest corner next to the trash enclosure. And there's some room in the other corner too, the southwest corner. And if there was more than could be stored there, it would have to be removed from the site to not interfere with the operation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobieski, and thank you, the applicant. Commissioner Fox, did you have a question?
I did, but Commissioner Sobieski stole my thunder, so all my questions were answered.
Sorry, Mike.
Quite okay, as long as they get answered.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any comments or questions? All right, we're going to, if there's no objection, we'll go to the public. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anybody from the public wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak in opposition? If you are, please raise your hand in Zoom. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition?
Appears we have none at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, James. Okay, hearing no comments, if the commissioners don't have or any objection, I think we can close petition 30-21 special permit and move it to old business for possible action. Can I entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Fox to close petition 30-21 and move to old business for possible action. Do I have a second?
Second by Sobieski.
Seconded by Commissioner Sobieski. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? This passes unanimously to move to old business petition 30-21. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next application, if I could have Commissioner Haggerty read petition 32-21, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly. Petition 32-21 subdivision regulations amendment at section 3.5.3 to allow creation of 2 interior lots as is allowed by Newington zoning regulations. Applicant and contact Newington TPZ.
Very good, thank you. We'll go to the applicant here.
So we are the applicant, the planning
Okay.
commission actually is the applicant for this. I hope you can hear me. Both neighbors on both sides of me are more like doing their yards right now. Do I come across okay?
No.
Can you hear a
Yes,
lot of
you do.
noise? Okay. So I introduced this to you at the last meeting as we were reviewing one of the pending petitions in front of the commission. We have discovered this disagreement between our zoning regulations and our subdivision regulations. Under section 3.4.9 of the zoning regulation, we allow 2 interior lots to be created out of residential lots under special permit. However, in our subdivision regulations, under section 3.5.3 of the subdivision regulations, there is a language that allows commission to allow just 1 interior lot to be created. So we talked about it, like I said, at the last meeting a little bit, because I really didn't have history on this. And since the zoning regulations were the most recent amendment in this particular regards, and that amendment was done effective on July 29 on 2016, the commission instructed me to actually use that perimeter and make subdivision regulations, which have been only amended 6 times since inception, meet this. The last amendment in the subdivision regulations actually was done later after 2016, but the amendment was specific to removal of the LID regulations. So this section that said previously that the commission would allow only one interior lot in the subdivision regulations probably was placed there when the subdivision regulations were written in the first place. So the proposal right now, James, if you can move to the proposed language, like next page, I think, would amend the sentence to say the commission reserved the right to allow 2 interior lots meeting the zoning regulations for the zone district in which the subdivision will be located. You know, I have no opinions one way or the other. I think since commission decided recently that 2 interior lots were appropriate, this is the best way to amend it. And the whole point of this is just to make one book of our regulations match the other one.
Thank you very much, Renata. Yeah, I think there's some commissioners that remember back in 16 that we brought this up and we had changed this. The interior lots were taken out some time ago, and I think Commissioner Fox and Commissioner Sobieski might remember that the previous chairman proposed to put this back into the regulations. We did. It was approved unanimously, I believe. And then I believe what happened is that the previous town planner just didn't correct the subdivision regulations to match the zoning regulations. And I believe that's what has happened. Our lots in Newington are originally designed very deep, quite a few of them. And it was always from the original zoning, they always allowed these rear lots. I'm going to open up to the commissioners at this time and get their comments and or questions for either myself or Renata. Any commissioners have any questions or concerns? Commissioner Sobieski, you remember the change of that, don't you?
Yeah, vaguely. I have to research my notes. I remember something to that effect. Yes.
Yep. All right. If there's no questions at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak in favor of this application? We have a number 668. Can be recognized.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni, 170 Barnhill Lane in Newington. I'm also a licensed land surveyor in the... Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. Go right ahead.
Thank you. For the record, I'm also a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut with an office at 170 Payne Road. I've been practicing surveying in the town of Newington for over 40 years. Historically, the town has allowed interior lots and multiple interior lots in subdivisions. A couple specific instances, Kitts Lane and Robbins Avenue, East Robbins Avenue, the corner there's a subdivision with 2 rear lots. Valley View Drive as well has 2 interior lots on single subdivisions. Sometime in the early 2000s, the commission looked to remove the regulations to allow interior lots for various reasons. And there was a period of time where they were no longer allowed, but the subdivision regulations, as was stated correctly, that only allowed one rear lot. Though I don't think the regulation or the actual practice followed that. In 2016, when the town realized and the commission realized that there's a numerous amount of properties in town that are long, deep lots that may not have the required frontage to allow public roads to be constructed, but they should be allowed to develop lots. If you've got an R12 zone or an R20 zone, and you've got an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, those people shouldn't be penalized for allowing interior lots. They meet the zoning requirements for area, so they should be allowed to construct those homes on those lots. When the commission in 2016 brought this regulation back, and they were very specific in the regulations in the section of our zoning regulations that allows these again, they made it 2 lots, and they made it 2 lots purposely because of the amount of lots, properties that you have, such as Willard Avenue, Maple Hill Avenue, Main Street, among many other streets and neighborhoods, to allow the 2 lots. Unfortunately, at the time, as was stated, the subdivision regulations were not amended to coincide with the new zoning regulations, and I think it was just an oversight. The commission, in their wisdom in 2016, rewrote the regulation, brought the rear lots back with the intention of allowing 2 per subdivision, and I'm in favor of this change in the subdivision regulations to make the 2 coincide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bongiovanni. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Go right ahead. We have Brittany.
Hi, my name is Brittany Figueredo. I live on Carriage Hill Drive. I'm just speaking in opposition to this. I'm not in favor of overdeveloping the land. I don't see any benefit of this for the existing residents or neighborhoods. And I'm afraid the only one who do benefit would be the property developers who are looking to profit. So I know this is going to be affecting our neighborhood pretty soon. So I would just like to state out that I do oppose this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Casey Robinson. Go right ahead. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Carrie Cerise, and I live at 319 Connecticut Ave, and I piggyback exactly what Brittany was just mentioning. It is something that will definitely really affect every aspect within the Connecticut Avenue, allowing people to get in and out of the area very safely. It's going to be a huge tackle, and I believe that the overpopulation on Connecticut Ave alone will be detrimental to the flow of traffic as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one other person. You could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Cassie Robinson. I'm on 261 Connecticut Avenue. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. I oppose this. We live on Connecticut Avenue, and I agree with the other 2 who had spoken already. Between the traffic, the properties, the woodlands, the wetlands property. Our property, when we purchased it, we bought it due to the property that was behind us in the Serene property. We get the animals and all that comes up to our property, and we just don't feel that it's necessary to have 6 houses behind our property. I also feel that the traffic and everything else is already busy on Connecticut Avenue. Having that there and having another street right not too far down the road will cause an issue as well. My other concern is also with the building and how the construction may end up with how expensive everything is right now. And I'm concerned with how many years back properties being bought and houses being built and being left with houses just being left in rare form, not finished, and left for years. I don't want crime to come if things are left undone, unfinished. That's just another concern of mine, and I know a few other people in our area. So I definitely oppose to this building being behind our property.
Okay, thank you very much. And Carly, if you'd like to.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. If you could state your name and address for the record, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. My name is Carly Kafusi. I'm 255 Connecticut Avenue. I understand that this is just for, the subdivision regulation amendment, but as mentioned, the subdivision regulations has been amended more recently than the zoning regulations. I understand that it was last updated in 2016 for zoning regulations. And I just think that if subdivision regulation was updated, more recently, then we should really consider going with the most recent, even though that section was left untouched. That could have been amended when the other amendments were made. And then also just overdeveloping land. I understand that there are deep lots, but a lot of properties in Newington can't really handle 6 impervious surfaces. And I mean, obviously this is not specific to Connecticut Avenue, but I think Connecticut Avenue falls into that as well. I mean, we have a bunch of water drainage issues, and adding 6 impervious surfaces on a clay-like soil is not going to benefit any of the surrounding neighborhoods or anything like that. So I mean, 1 interior lot is what I'm in favor of, and what I would like the commission to consider.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor, or in opposition? Anybody else? Okay, if there's no objection, I'm going to go to commissioners. Do you have any questions? I have a question for Renata. Renata, if the applicant chose to could he build a road here and have more houses than what he's proposing, or not?
That discussion is probably better left for next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just about the subdivision regulations, and overall it applies to the whole city or whole town. The plan for Connecticut Avenue possibly could include the street, but really the discussions of that should be left for next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. I understand. Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Lenars.
Mr. Chairman, please, I heard you talk earlier about some of the commissioners were here back in the day when some of this was proposed and not acted on and changed. Can you just restate that again, just to clarify a couple things I might be a little confused about, just so I can clearly know exactly what was done then compared to what wasn't acted on then and what we're trying to do so now?
So let me see if I can get this correct, and Renata can correct me if I have it wrong.
Thanks.
But in 2000, the rear, having rear lots was taken out of the regulations. And in 2016, the commission found that there was a lot of rear lots and that they should have the right to build on these rear lots. And it was instituted back into our zoning regulations to allow two rear lots for each subdivision. But at the time, we only modified the zoning regulations and we never looked at the subdivision regulations. At that time, we probably should have made the subdivision regulations the same as the zoning regulations, but it was an oversight from the previous town planner and we never addressed it. And that's why we have the difference between 2 lots on the zoning and 1 lot on subdivision. Do I have that correct, Renata?
Yes, you do, Mr. Chair. And you know, this kind of stuff actually happens, unfortunately, more frequently than we would like to. Even when we change zoning regulations, sometimes we implement language that contradicts a language someplace else. So it's very likely just an oversight that happened at the time, and the subdivision regs were not fixed. There were subsequent revisions to the subdivision regulations, but again, nobody looked at this particular section. You know, the stuff that happens with the subdivision regulations after that had to do with the removal and implementation of LID regulations.
Right. Does that answer your questions, Commissioner Linares?
Yes.
Understand?
I didn't know the formality of the situation when it happened years ago. And then where, I don't want to use the term fell apart, but not really came to fully being changed within the subdivision regulations versus the regular ones. And I understand, and I'm sympathetic to some of the people that live near here, obviously, that are going to have possibly something being developed or changed that they're not accustomed to. And of course, no one cares as much as the people that live close to it. And I get that. And if it does happen, I understand that there might be some changes, and I hope it's the purview of the town to best protect if something is done in the future, which I don't know if there is or isn't guaranteed, but to protect these people as well as best we could if something does happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Linares. Any other questions from commissioners? Well, hearing none, if there's no objection, can I entertain a motion to close petition 32-21 and move it to old business for possible action?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Linares. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Commissioner Havens seconds it. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of our minutes of 6/9/21. And I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Commissioner Havens. Do I have a second?
Seconded by Haggerty.
Commissioner Haggerty seconds it. Any questions, comments, any corrections in the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody else? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously for approval of the minutes. Okay, we're under, there's nothing under new business. We have old business. And would this still be up here, Renata?
The revised language, James, please. But yes, this is under old business for you
Okay.
to act tonight on the special permit application, please.
Okay, just for the special permit, not for the site plan, correct?
For the special permit and right, and by voting on the special permit, if you end up approving it, you will essentially agree with what the applicant has stated with regards to decreasing of non-conformity of the existing conditions.
Correct. Any questions from the commissioners? Do we have a motion prepared? Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, should we wait for the changes that the town engineer is requesting? I believe there's quite a number of them.
Yeah,
Should we
that would
wait
be
all
for
this
the,
off?
that would be for the site plan. We're not going to approve the site plan yet, but we're approving the use and everything. And the special exception. The site plan had some issues, so we were going to hold off on the site plan, if that's all right, Commissioner?
I don't, like I said, I wish we could get a list of all the issues that were, the engineer had. I thought we had agreed to that years ago, or months ago. Thank you.
The town planner can maybe,
Can you repeat the question for me? I had a hard time hearing Mr. Sobieski.
My question was, I thought we had agreed a while ago that when the town engineer has some substantial amount of questions, we should get a copy of them to see what they are, whether they deal with the site plan or the general plan, you know. Apparently the town engineer has quite a few of them, so I don't know. That was my only question.
So all of the town engineer's comments, we can send them over to you, but between the town engineering comments and zoning comments, we had so many that it essentially rendered the site plan application non-approvable. I did not want them to be approved subject to, 70 conditions or 54 conditions or whatever. We split this application into two, which is your normal process, actually. Prior to me coming on board, you always acted on special permits and then had made a separate action on the site plan application. I started combining these because normally when you have a special permit application, with it, you also get a plan to review with. So to expedite this process and make it less problematic for applicants, we combined it. In this particular instance, every comment that is outstanding is directly related to the site plan. So what was presented to you tonight, the general layout of the site, the landscaping, the way the building will look, and those criteria that you are required to consider when you're acting on special permits, that is the focus of special permit application. In my opinion, you do not need to hold vote on the use in order to allow special permit, as long as you agree with the general layout of that site.
so Renata, we'll have an opportunity in 2 weeks to look at the site plan and make sure that the site plan is complying with all the engineer's comments and your comments, correct?
That is correct. And at that stage, so when you look at special permit application, it's all about impacts. If you read your criteria, you will see that everything that you are considering there has to do with the impact. So as if you were standing outside of the property, what would you see? What is the noise level? Do we need this here? What is the traffic generation in the street? Does this create any kind of problem at the interaction between the street and the actual property? Interior traffic circulation and elements of drainage, elements of erosion controls, those are really the site plan issues. So tonight they have showed you buffering proposal to buffer the neighbors, which is impact. They spoke about that queuing. They spoke about whether or not they would have a spillover onto the street, create any kind of unsafe condition. all of those. So if you're satisfied with, standing outside of the site and being okay with public safety, with, buffering, with the way everything looks and how many cars will be bringing to the street and all that stuff, then yes, you definitely can vote tonight. And everything less will be addressed at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much, Renata. Any other questions from the commissioners? If I could have Commissioner Haggerty, if you could read the petition 30-21.
Absolutely. Petition 30-21, special permit section 3.19.5 to allow a new gas convenience store, including a drive-through restaurant at 129 Willard Ave. Applicant and owner, Gibbs Oil Company, Ltd. Contact Kenneth R. Slater, Jr. Approve. Move to approve the special permit under section 3.19.5. Reasons for the approval. The proposed amendment meets the criteria in section 6.2.5 of the Newington zoning regulations.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Thank you, Commissioner Havens, with a second. Any questions or comments? Noreen, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Fox?
Here.
Yes or no? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Aye.
Commissioner Havens?
Yes.
Commissioner Linares?
Yes.
Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes.
Commissioner Gill? Commissioner Haggerty?
Yes.
Chairman Payne?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to vote.
Commissioner Braverman is sitting, so
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Commissioner Gill is an alternate right now. Okay, so that is passed unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. All right, the next thing on the agenda is petition 32-21. This is the subdivision regulations amendment. At section 3.53 to allow creation of 2 interior lots as is allowed by Newington zoning regulation. Applicant and contact is Newington TPZ. So as we were discussing, these regulations were changed back in 2016 to allow the 2 lots, but there was an oversight and it never got addressed in our subdivision regulations. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Renata?
No, Mr. Chair, I think I included the effective date, which will allow us, if we make this effective on July, I don't remember which one, it will allow us to have this July 6th. It will allow us to have this at the next meeting for Connecticut Avenue application.
Okay, very good. If I could have Commissioner Linares read petition 32-21 motion.
Absolutely. Petition 32-21 subdivision regulations amendment at section 3.5.3 to allow creation of 2 interior lots as is allowed by Newington zoning regulations. Applicant and contact Newington TPZ. Approve. Move to approve the subdivision regulations amendment with the effective date of July 6th, 2021. Reasons for the approval. The proposed amendment is consistent with the requirements of section 3.4.9 of the zoning regulations.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lenars. Do I have a second?
Seconded by Haggerty.
Commissioner Haggerty has a second. Any questions or comments? Noreen, if you could do the roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Fox,
Yeah.
Commissioner Havens,
Yes.
Commissioner Linares,
Yes.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Yes.
Commissioner Braverman. Commissioner Braverman.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Haggerty,
Yes.
Chairman Payne.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
unanimous.
thank you very much. That passes unanimously. And we will move on to, we don't have anything under petitions for public hearing scheduling yet. We'll go right to the town planner's report.
So we actually did receive an application that should be on the agenda for scheduling of public hearing. I am not sure whether or not that is actually a formal process we need to do. I would not like to defer this application from having an opportunity to have a public hearing just on an account that it was received after the agenda went out. But if you do not mind, I can present for them and then you guys can let me know whether we should schedule them for scheduling of public hearing. So we received a new application for the zoning map change in from industrial zone to PD zone at 690 Cedar Street. That is the National Welding site. The property was left out of the zone change that was done previously for all the other properties, but at the time, all the other properties surrounding it were owned by the same property owner, Hayes Company. So Mr. Hayes, I believe at some point came to the commission and changed 3 or 4 parcels in that section. And then this parcel was left out and wasn't changed at the time. So that is what is going to actually get scheduled for public hearing for the July 14th meeting. With
That's
your
good.
permission.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Go right ahead and schedule that, Renata.
Excellent. And then for my report, I have a couple of things and they're sort of like all over the place. Some are planning, some are some advice that I need from you, things like that. So to start, let me talk about this process for special permits and site plans. When I got to Newington, the normal procedure that I saw on your previous agendas was always to have a separate vote on the special permit application and then a separate vote on the site plan application. The applicants would actually file 2 separate sets of paperwork, which were generally identical in everything, and they would pay 2 fees, one for special permit and one's for site plan. And then that you would make 2 separate actions. When 333 Berlin Turnpike came on board, we discussed this process and to kind of streamline everything because they were going to give you all design, like fully designed site plans anyways. And normally with special permit, you do require some kind of a plan, whether it's general layout plan or more to detail plan. So we discussed that. They put together their plans as they would for normal site plan approval, and I combined all of their applications. So when you reviewed those, you looked at each special permit with its associated site plan, for which I didn't charge separate fee because we were already charging a fee for special permit, and you were also looking at it at the exact same time. So I feel that that process works well. It speeds things up for one, but it also eliminates this need to have like a separate thing, separate plans for one thing and separate plans for another thing and all that. With that being said though, my advertising cost for special permit exceeds the cost of an application for special permit. So if we proceed by doing this in this kind of way, when we combine everything together and sort of expedite this, what I would like to do is review my fees and perhaps go to town council and propose that, you know, now we charge a fee that is specifically for public hearing, and it has a set amount that, you know, is an average fee I pay for the legal ad. And then there is also $60 that we pay to the state. So I would kind of itemize that out so that an applicant pays essentially a fee for staff review, which is going to be the same fee that they're paying now, plus when there is a special permit, you know, something that covers our legal costs for legal ads and the money that we send to the state. So with your permission, I will do some analyzing and go to council with that. Also, another thing that I noticed is we compared the pricing between a legal ad we issued in New Britain Herald with the cost of that same ad in Hartford Courant. And Hartford Courant is almost 50% less. So in addition to all that, I'd like to switch and actually advertise in Hartford Courant instead of New Britain Herald, if you guys agree with that.
Yep. Thank you, Renata. Let me go to the commissioners for a minute. I don't have a problem with that. I think that either paperwork and saving 50% is a good thing. And as far as combining the special exception and the site plans, I think that went well for the 3333. I think it worked to the benefits of the commissioners. They were able to see everything. So I don't have a problem with that either, but I'm going to open it up to commissioners to see if they have any concerns or questions on this so that we can move forward. Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Payne. I'm a little confused, Renata. Why are they paying the state of Connecticut $60?
Every application that goes to any land use board and commission, we take $60 out of the fee that we collect and pay the state for it. And as to why, I don't know, ask the state. Because they make me pay.
So basically then if you split this up, that they would have to pay twice, is that correct?
No, they wouldn't have to pay twice. So what happens right now is somebody comes in, files an application for special permit. With that, they submit a plan. So we charge them for site plan application too. So you pay, let's say, hypothetically speaking, $250 for one and $250 for the other application. Out of that money, I send $120 to the state, and we issue our advertising for the special permit and pay all that. And, you know, if anything remains. When I combine, like I did with 333 Berlin Turnpike, I don't have that additional application. So I have collected $250. I have paid the state, I have paid the newspapers, and between the two, it costs me more than what I collected in the front end. So that I did not like, that bothers me. So when the applications work well, like they did with 333 Berlin Turnpike, and you can see everything and the plans are designed well and everything is copacetic, you, the commission, can act on that one application. When it doesn't work well, like it didn't with Gibbs, when we come back with too many comments, we always have ability to split that, and you can act on a special exception and the general layout plan, and then we separately will process the site plan application. So that's the genesis of it, to give people sort of option to go either way.
Any other questions? I think combining them is very good, but I think it's also very important, as Renata has said, to make sure that we collect enough money to cover our expenses. And she can work on that and present that to us so that we can present that to the town council to see if we can change our fee schedule. Any other questions from the commissioners on this topic? Okay, Renata, go right ahead with the next.
Then the next thing is I had sent you an invitation for that equity zoning seminar, and I sent a video recording. Since at some point in future, we're very likely to revisit that conversation on whether or not the community would like to opt out of provision for accessory dwelling units. I really would encourage you to watch those webinars because they're educational in a sense of, you know, if we are making decisions like this, well, let's then at least know, you know, what's behind it, what's behind the law to begin with. I have created about 40% of a working document for the Newington Junction. I was hoping that I would be ready by this meeting to have that working document shareable to show it for anybody who can have like questions so that we can discuss that at the next meeting. But I quite didn't get there. I did the front part talking about what is the purpose of the district and, you know, authorities and stuff like that, and got to uses, and then didn't have a chance to like finish that part yet. So because this is a working document, we don't have to share it with the public. I think it's sufficient to have it available just in the packet. And then, I mean, when I say share it with the public, I mean share it in the public like 3 weeks ahead of time. I probably can attach it to the documents for the next meeting and we can talk about it. Or I can push it further. Perhaps it might be better when people are actually able to come in person, and instead of discussing this at the next meeting, schedule it for the second meeting in July. So I can do either or.
Yeah, I think that might be best to wait until the second meeting in July to give the residents an opportunity to come, even though we're still in the stages of talking about it.
It is a working document.
It's
This
a
is
working
not a proposed regulation or anything, right?
Correct. Okay, and I think that would be best because the residents have spoken that they would like to be present. So why don't we schedule that for the second meeting of July?
Okay, I will do that. So as many of you know, recently there were these two big amendments on the state legislature. There is 800 plus implementer bill that James is struggling with, and I'm struggling with like a little part of that with regards of, you know, how to hold meetings and what are all our things, notification purposes and all that stuff. We were hoping to have answer for you for tonight with regards of like we can do this, that, or the other thing. James can speak more to that, but I think we're still waiting for some responses for FOIA commission, and he emailed some questions to certain state agencies. So we're still waiting to see, you know, what to do and how to do it. My understanding is that this was a little bit rushed and a little bit done in not considering, you know, people involved in this. And then the other part that came up was the new adult use cannabis use law was approved yesterday. I had a conversation with Chair prior to this, and we discussed possibility of me coming to you and asking if we should amend our medical marijuana regulation. This is a 300-page document, and I have to first read it through so I don't create some kind of conflict, but on the like first look, it looks to me like we're going to probably have to have a whole other section of the regulations because they define it different. It doesn't cover medical dispensaries or any of that stuff. So that is going to be coming your way soon. I'm hoping in July I'll be able to like put all of this together.
Very good. Any questions for the town planner? Commissioner Sobieski?
Yes, we're not is the entire implement bill has that been passed or just portions of it?
The 800-page implementer bill, I think, James, I'm not sure whether it's been signed by the governor, but it's all together.
As of the 17th, they had just transmitted to the governor. We haven't seen a sign off on it yet.
Yeah.
And did they all take effect at the same time, or is there various stages? I thought I heard the marijuana takes effect in a couple of weeks.
July 1.
July 1, okay. And then the other issue that I had a question of that you touched on, you can't, in my opinion, medical marijuana is one thing, the way it's being dispensed. The marijuana distribution or sale would have to be under a separate section, as you pointed out, but I'm not really sure how they're going to monitor that. Thank you.
So I'll talk about that when I come in to you with the proposal. You know, right now there is a requirement for state license. So on the state end, they're treating it as a liquor establishment. What concerns me is that they're calling this a retailer, and they're defining it like outside of the medical marijuana realm. So if somebody came in to me on July 1 and asked to have one of these retail locations, depending on which zoning district they picked, it might be a permitted use as of right. That doesn't even go to the commission. It's not that scary because we can only have one in town. There are density limits that limit that to perhaps one retailer for our town. But I think that commission should at least get an input as to where that gets approved, or at least have an opportunity to discuss this and analyze whether you want to do this by right or by special permit.
Everybody understand that? Any questions? Okay, go right ahead, Renata.
I have nothing else. That's
Okay.
the end of it.
Okay, very good. Next thing on the agenda is communications. We have a DOT letter.
We had sent out a DOT letter that we received for Robbins Avenue improvements. We also have received a 65-day extension to act on all the petitions related to 285 and 293 Connecticut Avenue. In my office and directed to the commission, I have also received a petition today, and that petition I will present to you and talk more about it at the next meeting. It is petition signed by, I want to say, about 60 addresses in town, more people, but 60 locations, in opposition to development there. And because they included names, email addresses, and the phone numbers, I did not want to include that as like a displayable type of thing tonight. There are people's like private phone numbers listed on it.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have any other communication for you.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, next thing on the agenda is public participation. For items not listed on the agenda, speakers are limited to 2 minutes. If you're on Zoom application, you could raise your hand. If you're on the telephone, use *9. I'll acknowledge Rose Lyons first, please. Go right ahead.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I'm very pleased to hear that the commissioners are ready to come back in person. And I do have to agree with Commissioner Havens, though I am going to miss the convenience of having snacks and being able to do chores in between things here. But my main concern with coming back in person is what I heard at the town council meeting last night, and that maybe I'm wrong in what I interpreted, but I'm hearing that the town council chambers isn't ready for the public to come back as far as the audio, visual, whatever, and IT has to work on how they're going to work out the logistics of this implementer bill. One of the conditions of that bill, and James can correct me if I'm wrong, is that anybody from the public who wants to participate and doesn't have a laptop or a smartphone to have access to the meeting has to be supplied one by the town of Newington. So there are several things that seem to be very troublesome to me as to when you may get back into in-person meetings. It may work its way out, it may not, but I appreciate you holding off, especially on the Newington Junction discussion, until people in the neighborhood can attend. Thank you again. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much, Rose. And next person online, we have Scott Grzowski. Go right ahead. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Scott Kraskowski, 46 Miami Avenue. Just following up on what Rose Lyon said and what was said the other night during the town council meeting. I am involved with NCTV, of course, and we are waiting for our video feeds from both the Helen Nelson Room and the new town council chambers. We're working with a company called Vision Point, who the town has hired to do this job. And Vision Point put cameras into the town council chambers. Unfortunately, those cameras were not working correctly, so they had to order new ones. And as of yesterday, an email from Vision Point that I received, that it's a 10 to 14 week lead time on getting that new equipment in so that we can do this. That would mean that we couldn't do any kind of Zoom chats or any kind of feed from the town council chambers or Helen Nelson Room because of this. So it's an issue. We'd like to get in there as quickly as possible ourselves. We'd like to get NCTV up and running, but this is holding us back. And it's because of this chip shortage that's going around where people can't buy computers or trucks or cars and stuff like that because there's not enough chips to go around. So right now, the town council chambers is not ready, and I hope it's ready soon, but that's what's happening now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. And we also have Cara Santoro online. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, hi, Cara Santor, 93 Francis Avenue. And I agree with Rose. I want to thank you guys a lot for pushing forward to get the meetings in person, and putting it off as long as you did is good, because hopefully everything else can come together. And the majority of the town that wants to be here, the people who can't use computers or don't know how or don't have them, too old or whatever, now we can all be together. And I'm happy to bring snacks if that's what it takes to get us there. But thank you again for being so considerate to get us back together. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Pepperoni and cheese.
Okay.
So if it turns out to be that we can't get into the council chambers and the TVs aren't working, then I think if there's no objection from the other commissioners, I think what we'll do is we'll hold off a little bit on that Francis Avenue area, the busway area. We'll see if we can get in there for our second meeting in July, but we'll take it one day at a time. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Anybody else from the public? Remarks from the commissioners? Any commissioners have anything? Commissioner Sobieski.
Yes, thank you, Dominic. If anybody is interested, the attorney that gave that presentation was Michael Ziska. He's with Halloran and Sage. I do have a phone number here. I don't know if you want me to put it out or not, but he said if we had any questions to call him. Again, as soon as I get that, I am definitely going to send it out to everybody I can. Okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we also have Commissioner Haggerty.
Yeah, just a question. I don't know if Scott was still or James can comment. So, the issue is the cameras in the room are not functioning and they're going to take 3 months to replace. So we could, we're all in agreement that we are fine with meeting in person and people can go there in person. But unless you're there in person, you won't be able to see. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I'm not sure if that affects the NCTV cameras or not. That's something that we're gonna have to look at.
Let's see. Okay.
It sounds like it's affecting the NCTV cameras and stuff, so.
So unless you were there in person, you wouldn't be able to attend.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And
Yeah.
3 months, huh? Okay.
And I think we have to provide both. So that's the stumbling block. As soon as we get some new information, we'll pass it on to the commissioners. And the town planner, Renata?
So with regards to what Commissioner Sobieski was bringing up, I can, if you want me to reach out to anybody at Halora Nursage or anybody else with regards to any information that you would like presented to you, I can do that. Attorney Ziska was actually like a first attorney I worked with. He was an attorney for the first town that I was a planner. And so I already have a relationship, professional relationship with him. But that being said, any other areas of interest to you, if you would like to have somebody come in and present, let me know through the CCM or CCAPA. I can likely get somebody to do that for us, either for free or for cheap.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you very much, Renata. Any other comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Sobieski, was that in what format did they have the attorneys? Was it just a YouTube? Was it?
It was a PowerPoint. It was very enlightening. What he did is he would take each section of the new housing law, and he then broke it out. And he said, a lot of it was repeating itself. Some didn't make any sense. His comment to everybody at the meeting was, after going through everything, because it's so convoluted, he suggested that most of the towns, not the cities, but the towns would definitely vote to opt out. And there's 2 votes. There's a vote for the parking, which would have to be taken at the commission level and also at the town council level. And then there's an opt out of the entire rest of it, again, at the commission level and at the council level. He said that it just doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
So what I asked at CROG is that if there's any way they could get this presentation where everybody could sit and listen to it with his PowerPoint, and it was an excellent PowerPoint. I've done it to a lot of them in my career. This is one of the better ones. And like I said, he's been a land use attorney for years. I know when I was when I first got on commission, I went down to Wesleyan, and he was one of the presenters there, and he did an excellent job. So like I said, as soon as I get it, I will definitely pass it on to everybody.
Would you like Renata to reach out and try to grab it?
No, I mean, it's going to be sent to everybody as soon as CROG gets it.
Okay.
You think she can talk to Lynn DeSantos? I mean, that's up to her. I mean, but that's what he said.
Okay. I think you're correct. It would be helpful for all the commissioners to watch that PowerPoint so that we're familiar with it as best as we can be. Thank you very much, Commissioner Sobieski.
And basically, it's the same presentation that Renata had, but it was with one attorney and not 4 people. And like I said, I mean, I've dealt with him a few times in the past, and it's good. So, just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have any questions? I want to thank everybody. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn has been accepted. I want to thank everybody and good night, and we'll see you at our next meeting.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Renata. Thank you, James. Good night.
Good night.